Hey there everyone, my name is Fox Navarro. It is hot in here. Okay, today's the start of something new I wanted to work on for a while. It basically involves me, reading bad books cover to cover, hopefully with some friends involved. I don't have any with me right now, but I'll try and get some later. Yeah, we're just going to read the books, we're going to dissect them, we're going to make fun of them, and they're just going to be bad. I mean, sort of, cringe-worthy, sort of weak, sort of like, just morally wrong. And I've actually bought 4 books online from used bookstores to do it. So, yeah, we can totally expect Perez Hilton's True Bloggywood Stories. That's going to be fun. Taking Chances. This one's supposed to be, really toxic. Uh, Finding God Beyond Harvard. That's just supposed to be, really just spoiled rich white girl ranting. But today we're going to be starting with Elixr, the Hillary Duff young adult novel. And yeah, we're going to be reading it, all so-and-so pages of it, cover to cover, dissect the story, we're going to see if it's any good or not. So yeah, it says New York Times bestseller, Elixr, as I'm sure, all books are. Let's read the synopsis on the back. 17-year-old Clay Raymond has felt the glare of the spotlight her entire life. The daughter of a renowned surgeon and a prominent politician, she has become a talented photojournalist who takes refuge in a world that allows her to travel many exotic places. But after Clay's father disappears while on a humanitarian mission, Clay begins to notice eerie, shadowy images in her photos of a strange and beautiful young man, a man whom she has never seen before. When fate begins, Clay and this man together, it's C-L-E-A, I assume that means Clay, probably Clay. Clay and this man together, she is stunned by the immediate and powerful connection she feels with him. As they grow closer, they are drawn deep into the mystery behind her father's disappearance, and they discover the centuries-old truth behind their intense bond, torn by a dangerous love triangle and haunted by a powerful secret that holds their fates. Together, they race against time to unravel the past in order to save their lives and their futures. Don't miss the next compelling novel in the lecture series, Devoted, coming soon. This book was written in 2011, quite a bit after the apex of Hillary Duff's fame. And I don't want to, just, take cheap shots at her. It's not like she's, Lindsay Lohan or anything. But yeah, this still does kind of reek of a vanity project. So that's why I put it on here. It's something that I do want to try and take a look at. The cover of the novel features a girl with hair blowing in her face. And you can see on the other edge that's a guy in what appears to be a realm of strip. But if you look closely, you can see where it says a novel onside the weird film strip thing. The background is all blue. That's simple. There's not a lot to dissect here. You can see the very first page, besides the cover, the very first piece of paper in my copy of the book says discard Hamilton Public Library, which I think is hilarious that, this book was probably in the trash at some point. Somebody fished it out and put it on a used book website. Alright, and there's really no introduction and no dedication page. And it says right here, in dreams and in love, there are no impossibilities. And then after that, the text starts, which is just really, there's no dedication, no introduction. And so with that, platitude, let's start right in. 1. No chapter 1, just 1. I couldn't breathe. Wedged in the middle of an ocean. Should I do voices or no? I'm just going to try and do a real minimal voice for right now. I don't know what I should do or not. I couldn't breathe. Wedged in the middle of an ocean of people, I gasped for air, but nothing came. The heat from a million writhing bodies radiated over me, their sweat weighing down the air. I searched anxiously for an escape, but painfully bright lights strobed on and off, clouding my sense of direction. I was losing it. I was going to pass out. Okay, so I guess this woman's in a club, most likely. I forced myself in a deep breath and tried to talk myself down. I was fine. It wasn't like I was anywhere dangerous. I was on a dance floor in the most exclusive nightclub in Paris. People lined up all night in the freezing cold for even a chance to stand where I was now. Okay, so looks like our protagonist, Clay, I'm assuming, is clearly having some sort of panic or anxiety attack inside a dance club. Most exclusive in Paris. We can obviously, because it's on the back cover. She is somewhat of a privileged person in that she's got money. Uh, it didn't help. The techno beat thrummed into my brain, 5 notes repeating over and over until I knew I'd have to scream. The crowd pushed even closer, and I couldn't move my arms. I could barely turn my head, and I had a sudden vision of this being forever, an eternity packed in this tiny space confining as a coffin. I don't know what nightclubs you go to. In my experience, there is usually a lot less than 5 different notes for depending on the type of song they're playing. I like EDM and all, but a lot of it's repetitive. 2011, so yeah, I guess before EDM really got big. Like my father's coffin. Did he have a coffin? Was he even buried? Did anyone know when he died? Was he alone, lost in the jungle? Was he attacked by animals? Was he found and tortured? Had he prayed for us to save him before it was too late? So, oh, her dad's dead. That's a yeah, we're barely a page in, and we get that bombshell. Seems like an awkward way to introduce it, juxtaposing, your father's death in, yeah, what I assume is the jungle. So, I mean, yeah, lost in the jungle, attacked by animals. So your father died under mysterious circumstances, and you're at the club under. Are the club goers animals? I could kind of see that. I mean, part of me thinks it's inappropriate since obviously one thing is more noble than going to the dance floor. I wonder if they're going to draw another parallel to that, or if they're clever about it. Let me see. I say they like this isn't a Hillary Duff vanity project. That did it. Now I was hyperventilating. I closed my eyes and forced my arms up and apart, swimming for dear life through the laze of writhing, grinding bodies. I nearly cried when I felt a burst of winter air on my face. I'd made it out to the balcony. I staggered to an open left seat and leaned it against the back as I drank in gulp after gulp of fresh air. Okay, yeah, this woman is clearly having some sort of panic attack. Let's see if we find out what brings it up. I was back. I was okay. I took another deep breath, this one calm and centering, and looked out to the nighttime Paris skyline. The Eiffel Tower bathed in yellow lights. It was beautiful. Automatically, I reached for the camera bag dangling at my hip, but of course, I hadn't brought it to the club. I sighed and let my hand drift to the silver iris charm I had always worn around my neck. I ran my fingers over the 3 uptight petals and 3 drooping sepals. The petals represent faith, valor, and wisdom, my dad had said when he fastened the necklace around my neck on my 5th birthday. You already have all those things in spades, little girl, he continued, and then knelt down to look me straight in the eye. But when things get tough and you forget, this necklace can remind you. Okay, 2 things. One, the Eiffel Tower is not the only memorable thing in Paris. I know they call that the Eiffel Tower effect, but no mention of the Arc de Triomphe. It sounds like you're familiar with the place, at least. Also, I mean, this is 2011. We had camera phones in 2011. I remember it. I would think, someone as rich as the person depicted here would be able to, get a camera phone. Clea, are you okay? I smiled and turned to see my best friend since forever, clinking across the balcony in high, strappy sandals. Those combined with her golden dress, endless legs, and a thick mane of red curls made Reina look like she stepped out of a Greek myth. I'm fine, I assured her, but the sudden crease between her eyes proved she didn't quite believe me. Great crease between, I got nothing. You were thinking about him? I didn't have to answer. Her eyes fell to my hand, still fingering the Irish charm, and she knew. Phrasing. It's worse when you don't sleep, she said. Maybe we should go back to the room, and I shook my head before she could finish. I actually felt a lot better, and even if I didn't, sleep wouldn't help. More often than not in the past year, sleep was just an invitation to nightmares I didn't want. Wow. I feel like Hillary Duff knows what this kind of anguish is like. Being a child or teen star, that's not easy on the psyche. I hope she gives these issues the nuance they deserve, but we'll see. Besides, even though I knew Rhino would leave in a heartbeat if I had asked her, I also knew it was the last thing in the world she wanted to do. She had only 3 days before winter break ended, and she had to go back to Valera Academy in Connecticut to finish up her senior year. I knew what that was like. This time last year, I was at the Valero with her. I took an extreme act of pleasure on my part to get my mom to agree to the homeschool switch. Rhina and I had dedicated the entire 3-week vacation to traveling and jet setting, and there was no way she wanted to lose a single second of her remaining time to something as mundane as hanging out in a hotel room. I'm great, I assured her. I just needed a break, and LaFroc is open all night. We're just getting started. Okay, homeschooling, I kind of wonder what that's about. Isn't she like a, yeah, daughter of a renowned politician, and I don't know. I'm going to assume that the politician is her mother, since it seems that's dramatically speaking, that would be most interesting. She has one parent dead, another parent still alive, so I'm going to assume that her mother's the politician, and that, that's going to invite us into some sort of this weird 100-year-old curse, mystery DC stuff. It's a sort of big world plot. Dramatically speaking, it's most interesting. Uh, I kind of wonder, like, who's homeschooling her, though. I have to assume, if you're a politician, you're probably busy. Yes, Rana squealed. Then she leaned in close and added meaningfully, I'll fetch our dates. I grinned as she clicked back to the glass doors. Our dates. I love that she called them that when we'd only met them an hour ago at the bar. I don't know, that seems okay to me. I settled into the love seat and looked back out at the skyline, composing photos in my mind and musing about assignments I might take when I got home. Something meaningful, I'd hoped. Maybe something that could feature Globo Reach, my dad's charitable foundation. So much of my dad's press in his last year was centered around the vials he uncovered. It's like the world forgot he dedicated himself to more important things, like saving people's lives. Okay, so yeah, it looks like his dad was the surgeon and her mom's definitely the politician. Globo Reach, Dad's charitable foundation. I had no idea what that's about, though. That could be anything from, MSF to Silent Hill. Enter the boys, Rena proclaimed to the florist as she arrived with our dates in tow, Pierre and Joseph. Hi, I smiled, taking the drink Joseph offered me. Thanks. Pas de problème. I don't know how much French is going to be in this book, but I'm going to butcher all of it. I apologize in advance. Pierre answered for Joseph as he collapsed into the cushioned chair next to mine. It is a pleasure to take care of those belles filles just like yourselves. Dos belles filles. He placed 2 drinks on a small table and then cried out to Reina, Viens, ma chérie, viens. With a playful growl, he wrapped his arms around Reina's waist and pulled her down on his lap. Was he for real? Reina seemed to think so. She squealed happily, then settled in his side saddle. Flirty French guys. All right, stereotype. You are very bad indeed, she scolded him. Mais mon, he protested, then handed her a drink as a peace offering. Pour toi. Merci, Reina replied, locking eyes with Pierre and arching her back just enough to add another cup size as she took a sip, then sat her glass. Just added not another cup size. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's not staged. I don't think I could make through that with a straight face. Let me try again. Merci, Reina replied, locking eyes with Pierre and arching her back just enough to add another cup size as she took a sip, then set her glass back down. Et pour toi, she purred, and closed the distance between them for a long, involved kiss. Alright, so, yeah, Reina looks like the flirty one, and I'm going to guess that our protagonist is the chaste one, because that's usually what we get in books like these. Fascinating. Thanks to my parents, I've been lucky enough to see some of the greatest actors of our time perform on stage. Reina engaging in the art of seduction beat all of them, hands down. I wasn't sure about her choice of partner this time, though. Pierre was so beautiful, it would be a crime against humanity for him not to be a male model. But he was so slim and angular that I imagined sitting on his lap and kissing him would be like cuddling with a porcupine. Reina didn't seem to mind. She came up for air with a smile that promised more, then leaned toward me and stayed to whisper, Pierre and I are soulmates. I just want to say, I totally get the whole thing about cuddling with a porcupine. That's actually kind of clever, I think. I want to get complaints, you know what I mean. I tried not to laugh. I would have if it was just a line, if she were saying it to assure Pierre that he wasn't spending his drink money in vain. But I knew in this moment, Raina absolutely meant it, as strongly as she'd meant it when she said it about Alexei, Julian, Rick, Yanko, Steve, and Avi, all of whom she had fallen head over heels with in the past 3 weeks. Damn, Raina, you're a player, girl. You get that. Personally, I don't believe in soulmates. Raina relishes the concept. She adores the breathless romance of a brand new relationship. It's a drug for her. Nothing makes her feel more alive. And each time the whirlwind of ecstasy sweeps her way, she truly believes that this time it's real. This time it's forever. No matter how often she's let down and disappointed, Rhino remains endlessly optimistic about the prospect of true love. It's an attitude I can't relate at all, but in her I admire it to no end. Okay, not much to add here except that, okay, Raina, she's the kind of, yeah, she is sort of the, extroverted person, and I guess we can tell that I don't believe in soulmates, that our protagonist, Clea, is either, just not into that mumbo-jumbo stuff, or that she's emotionally detached, and she's probably going to meet a guy whose dick will solve her problems or whatever. I don't know. This is gonna be some crazy romance novel, isn't it? Oh, this is gonna be painful. I'm happy for you, I said, and I meant it. If a fantasy about the man with all the angles brought her joy, I was all for it. Can we just call Pierre Angleman? That would be awesome. He returned my smile, then went back to kissing Pierre, expertly avoiding getting impaled on the points of his chin and cheekbones. Okay, this is just getting cartoonish. Ahem. Joseph had perched on the love seat next to me. His brow was furrowed. Poor guy probably assumed he'd have my full attention the moment he arrived. Damn, Joseph just got shut the fuck down. Sorry, I offered, turning my body to face him. Are you okay? He asked in a clipped British accent. You looked terribly upset when you left the dance floor. I did. I had a disturbing image of a juicy page 6 headline. Senator Victoria Weston's daughter loses it in Paris nightclub. Did people notice? In the middle of that zoo? He laughed. No one but the three of us. Or the two of us, really. I'm not sure Pierre's had his eyes off your friends. He tried gesturing with his face to illustrate Pierre's obsession with Raina's chest, but it was impossible to do so without stepping all over his refined sense of manners. Alright, so her mom is a senator. And now I'm going to spend the rest of this book trying to wonder what state. Probably Connecticut, actually, but... Who's the president? Who's the other senator from Connecticut? Who's the governor? I'm not going to stop thinking about that throughout this whole thing. I'm such a political nerd. It was pretty adorable, really. It's okay, I assured him. I know what you mean. Oh, thank goodness, he gushed. And as we laughed together, I wondered if I shouldn't reconsider Joseph. I had written him off as Pierre's wingman, but maybe that wasn't fair. Physically, I had no complaints. He was a little taller than my 5'4", with pale skin and dark hair, a forelock of which constantly threatened to follow his face. He was slim, but clearly toned and strong, okay, well, that's one way to introduce the physical appearance of a character, I reckon. Do you play soccer? I asked. I read that in the wrong voice. Do you play soccer? I asked. You look like a soccer player. Great. Now that sounded cheesy as his friend Pierre. I mean, no, it's okay. I do play soccer, actually. Not professionally or anything, but what the hell is up with that one cursive? Right there, it says do. That's just the one weird font. Joseph started to tell me about himself, and I did listen, but I also watched his eyes. The eyes are the windows to the soul, Clea. My father had began telling me when I was very young. And by the time I was old enough to know it was a cliché, it had already felt like an eternal truth. Joseph's eyes were powder blue, open, and clear. A little too clear, to be honest. I kept waiting for something he had said to light a fire in them, but it never happened. When he told me he was in the middle of a 2-year sabbatical to travel the world and find his passions, I knew I was done. The right guy for me is someone who lives his passions, not someone on a scavenger hunt to find them. Raina would say that didn't matter. Joseph didn't have to be my dream man to be a wonderful night's entertainment. Maybe she was right. But I got exhausted thinking about all the energy it would take to seem interested when I really wasn't. Joseph leaned forward so his forelock fell over his brow. Forelock? This is a forelock, right? Like right here, I don't actually know. Joseph leaned forward so his forelock fell over his brow. So now that I've told you everything you need to know about me, tell me about yourself, Claire Raymond. Full name basis. Actually, I'd like to go upstairs and dance, I answered honestly. Great, let's do it, he replied, but I shook my head as he started to rise. That's okay, I said with what I had hoped was a kind enough smile. I really just want to be by myself for a little. Are you sure? Yeah, you don't have to wait for me or anything. I don't want to waste your night. There are a lot of other girls in this club. Ah, he said, rising. I cringed. Had I hurt his feelings? Then he smiled. He may not have been happy, but he got it. Well then, nice meeting you. He extended his hand, and I shook it. He was a sweet guy. I'd hoped he'd find someone else. As he strode back inside, I tapped Raina on the shoulder and caught her eye, then made my way upstairs. The breeze kicked up as I walked, and I shivered. My strappy silk cocktail dress was far too skimpy for winter, even a winter buffered by the club's powerful heat lamps. But it was perfect for dancing. Not the claustrophobic mosh fest nightmare going on in the main club, but dancing. Yeah, you're hyperventilating. There's got to be a lot of people in that club. I would assume, the people provide, kinetic warmth that, they probably wouldn't even need heat lamps, if it was that many skinless people. I pulled open the balcony doors and immediately fell at ease. La Feroce's small upper lounge was the polar opposite of its wild downstairs, and far more my style. It was intimate, with subtle lighting, plush booths, candlelit scores, a large mahogany bar, a dance floor, and a small stage in which phenomenal singer belted out Elton James. I felt embraced by the whole atmosphere, and threaded my way through the other dancers until I was right in front of the stage, where I let the music carry me away. I love dancing. If the music's right, I get lost in it, and for a little while I can forget about everything else. Dancing for me is what I imagine yoga or meditation is for Raina. It's similar to how I feel when I'm rock climbing, all by myself on a cliff where I can only concentrate on the next handhold, the next foothold, and the addictive pain in my muscles as I pull myself higher and higher. So they're both pretentious. That's a shame. My mind wandered as I danced, and I found myself imagining how the conversation would have continued with Joseph. He gave me the big clue by calling me by my full name. Based on experience, there was a good chance his next question would have been, "So, what's it like being Victoria Weston's daughter?" It was a crazy question, especially coming from someone like Joseph, who had casually mentioned his ties to the throne and his family's regular appearance in the British tabs. He knew what it was like to live in the spotlight. But he wouldn't have been asking just to find out the answer, just for something to say. Wow, this really are a bunch of rich people. Raina loved that question. She got it all the time, too. Only her version asked what it was like to be connected to the Weston family. It was the perfect setup. She'd answer by locking eyes with the guy who asked and cooing meaningfully. It's the people. I get to meet the most incredible people. Good on her. That was never my answer. I'm not a people person. Maybe that's why I was so okay with homeschooling my senior year. Raina said she could never do it. She'd be plagued by the dozens of social dramas she'd miss every day. I wasn't bothered by that in the least. It's not that I don't like people. There are certain people I absolutely couldn't live without. Or at least people I feel I couldn't live without. I've learned this year that the truth is I can't live well without certain people. But I can live. Raina is one of those people. I've known her all my life. Raina's mother, Wanda, is my mother's equine professional. Basically, Wanda's a nanny for my mother's horses. It's a full-time job, and Wanda could never do it if she had to commute. Instead, she has a guest house on the property. She's always lived with Raina's dad, George. Goddamn rich people. Mom and Wanda were pregnant at the exact same time, and Dad told me it drove him crazy because neither of them would listen to him and take it easy. At 9 months pregnant and big as a house, Wanda would still waddle endlessly around the property, mucking stalls, scooping grain, personally grooming, and walking every horse. I feel that's a disrespectful use of the word waddle, but I don't know. Mom was in state politics back then. Even though most of her travel was fairly local, it was constant. To my dad, it was nothing short of miraculous that Mom was actually home when she went into labor, exactly 5 minutes before Wanda. Since George was at work, Dad ended up driving both women to the hospital. They clutched each other in the back seat. Two huge-bellied, panting, moaning women, both of them freaking out about the work they were missing. Dad sped all the way to the hospital. Sure, he'd get pulled over and arrested for being a suspected polygamist with a taste for overachievers. They both got pregnant at the same time and they gave birth at the same time. I guess. Okay, that's really. It's hard for me to suspend my disbelief when you've got this. This is kind of ridiculous, to be honest. Ray and I were born exactly 5 hours apart. I'm the older one, and we've been inseparable ever since. We say we're twins with different parents. The tabloids love to point out the difference in social status between Raina and me, but to me, she's blood. My parents feel the same way. They always made sure Raina went to the same private schools I did, and she's been invited on every family vacation. Well, that's nice. I'm not going to say it's unnice. Still, to the rest of the world, she's not a Weston, and I'm not sure that's such a bad deal. I am a Weston, and the main thing it's meant is a bunch of photographers chasing me from the minute I was born, writing about how I might affect Mom's career, whether I'd follow in the Weston footsteps and one day change the world. My family name meant that 2 months into seventh grade, a photo spread appeared in People magazine, Claire Raymond's awkward tween years. It was filled with hideous pictures of me from summer camp the summer before, pictures I had no idea I was ever being snapped. There was one of me with sleep-knotted hair and thick glasses, another of me picking out a wedgie. There's nothing better for a 12-year-old's blooming self-esteem like images like that papered all over her school. They gave me a stomachache that lasted until high school. Okay, we're definitely drawing into some experience from Hillary Duff here. I do expect a lot of the book to be bitter like that, and, I'm all for it. I'm also getting a little bit of Chelsea Clinton in here. I mean, I wasn't alive or really conscious during the time, but it's to my knowledge that, a lot of the tabloid papers like to talk about Chelsea Clinton, during her awkward teen years. You can look at the photos of her. She was an adorable child, by all means, but, it's still kind of weird for her to be in the spotlight like that. Randa's an expert at glossing over bad moments like that. She always knew when my name was in magazines. She loved that I got to travel the world with my parents and squealed with glee whenever I told her I went to some celebrity-laden event. She'd never been jealous of any of it. And even though she's been around that stuff all her life, she's always excited when she comes with me to a party, or an exclusive club, or an exotic vacation spot, or something like this winter break trip where we got to do all three. I didn't even realize I was dancing with my eyes closed until I felt a hand grip my arm and they snapped open. "Claire!" Raina shouted over the music, her eyes shining from the drinks and the excitement of a new love for life. "Je vais aller chez Pesper." I told you I'm bad at this, okay? I'm a Spanish speaker. I'm not. Uh, Je vais aller chez Paris. He has a penthouse with a view of the Eiffel Tower. C'est très bon, no? Raina clearly thought it was très bon, so I had to agree. Oui, I said, smiling. Just to be safe, you have his address? Raina nodded, and I pulled out my phone so she could type it in. "Pepper spray?" I asked. Raina rolled her eyes and pulled the cylinder from her purse. I nodded approvingly. "Anything feels wrong, you call me, no matter what. And if you don't text me within 12 hours, I'm calling the SWAT team." "We're in France. There is no SWAT team," Raina reminded me. Then she leaned close, touching our foreheads together and looking me straight in the eyes. "I'll be fine. You will never lose me." Okay, France might not have a SWAT team, but they have an equivalent to a SWAT team. I mean, they have to. It's probably called whatever Special Weapons and Tactics is in French, that, acronym. There's no SWAT team. That's dumb. Also, "I'll be fine. You will never lose me." Wow, she's going to die. She's going to die really bad. For the past year, she'd be saying that almost every time we separated. Much as I appreciated the sentiment, I always winced at the never. It seemed to only be taunting fate. I told Raina this, but she laughed away at my crazy superstitions. Apparently it was fine to believe in fate delivering you a soulmate every night, but crazy to believe that fate might chafe at being told what to do. I believe Raina gave fate far too much credit for benevolence. Yeah, people are skeptical about what they want to be skeptical about. I stayed at the club long enough so Raina wouldn't see me leave. She'd feel bad if she thought I had gone out only for her benefit. Back at the hotel, I dove greedily for the room safe and unlocked it to grab my camera. For as long as I can remember, photography has been my escape. My father gave me my first camera when I was only 4. Remember, Clea, he told me, taking pictures is a huge responsibility. Many cultures believe a photograph can capture one's soul. Yeah, cultures that haven't been introduced to technology, and in most cases electricity, believe that. That's not... What? Careful with that internet, Jimmy. There are some cultures that believe it's a tool of the devil. As always, I'd listen solemnly to him, hanging on every word and believing it without question, even when Mom laughed and rolled her eyes. "Oh, Grant, look at her," she said, her voice filled with adoration for us both. "Her eyes are saucers. Tell her it's not true." "Yeah, it's not true," Dad agreed, but his back was to Mom and she couldn't see what I did. He was crossing his fingers. I grinned, thrilled to be Dad's co-conspirator. Aw, he's dead. From the minute Dad gave me the camera, I couldn't get enough of it. He loved that. He was also a photography buff, and he was proud that I could always hang for the long hours in his basement studio. Both he and Mom claim I was very mommy-oriented before I got into photography, but I don't remember that. In my memory, it was always Dad and me, talking, laughing, sharing everything as we worked together to turn our pictures into art. I wonder if her mom's going to be revealed to be a huge jerk. We'll see. Raina laughs at me. Given my antipathy for the paparazzi, she finds it hysterical that I'm so attached to my cameras. But to me, what I do is anti-paparazzi. Ah. TMZers want to capture surface, and if a picture's in focus, it's great. My goal is to capture what every surface is hiding. There's a story behind every face, every landscape, every still life. There's a soul in every subject, and when my camera and I are really speaking, really working together properly, we can capture it. So TMZ exists in this universe. I kind of wonder, like, what else is this universe? I don't know. I assume because it was young adult, it was kind of like sci-fi themed, but that's probably not the case. Something about powerful secret, centuries old truth. There's some sort of prophecy element to this. Yeah, I wonder if this is like takes place in the future or the present. And there's a weird hair in this book. I think it's one of my eyelashes, but I can't be certain. In my hotel room, I placed the camera gently on my bed so I could pull on extra layers and brave the cold. I brought my favorite camera along for the trip, a DSLR my dad had bought me just before he left for his final Globo Reach trip. Newer and supposedly better models have come out, but this one feels tailor-made for me. I yanked off the cocktail dress and heels, and pulled on a pair of silk long johns, my favorite jeans, a turtleneck, a thick pullover sweater, a hoodie, and a knit beanie hat. No gloves. Gloves from a barrier between me and the camera. Bundled as much as I could, I pulled open the door to the balcony and stepped outside. The temperature had dipped below freezing, and ice rimmed from the wrought iron railings and furniture. I gave the skyline a cursory view, knowing I wouldn't really see it until I looked through the lens. I took a deep breath, savoring the moment, then lifted the camera to my eye. Immediately I started snapping. I could see it all from here. Little cafes, markets, and libraries, tucked in until morning, and above it all, the breathtaking majesty of Notre Dame, glowing in spotlights that brought it vividly to life. Okay, so they do know more than one Paris landmark. Alright, that's cool. I stayed on the balcony for hours, capturing every tiny intricacy of the architecture, the street, the scattering people walking by. I snapped it all, and kept the Latin Quarter company until the sunrise broke over the city and everything warmed just enough for me to realize my fingers had gone completely numb. Hence, that's why we wear gloves. A perfect night, and I didn't have to sleep. I walked back into my room, felt immediately blasted by the heat, and silently thanked myself for the foresight to turn up the thermostat before I started shooting. My hands were too numb to dial the phone at all successfully, but after 2 failed attempts I managed. I asked room service for a hot cocoa, the largest pot of hot tea, and a chocolate croissant, making sure they'd leave it outside the door if I didn't answer. I planned to be in the shower until my skin turned lobster red and every bit of the cold was leached from my body. 45 minutes later, I was bundled in a cozy robe, sitting on my bed, drinking cocoa and munching the croissant. Heat still radiated from my body after the blisteringly wonderful shower, as delicious as the meal. Perfectly satisfied, I flipped on the news, curious if I might catch a glimpse of Mom. Where was she this week? I couldn't remember. Was it Israel? Moscow? Could she actually be here in Europe? I leaned back on a stack of pillows, and I settled in to watch. Ellipses. Two things before the obvious wham line here. Uh, One, I'd imagine a bath, like a hot bath, would be more relaxing than a hot shower. That way you can just sort of soak in and, thaw. And then maybe the hot water just slowly gets cooler, more room temperature, so that way it's more relaxing. That's what I'd do if I were in this situation. Also, now I'm asking, what does Mom do as a senator? If she's in Israel and Moscow, she's probably on the Foreign Relations Committee. That job is currently in the real world held by Bob Corker from Tennessee. It used to be Bob Menendez from Jersey. Uh, but still, this does seem like a lot of job. How do you not know where your mom is at? It's to my knowledge that if you're head of the Foreign Relations Committee, you don't travel as often as Secretary of State. I'm gonna. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I need to know. I need to know. And the next thing I knew, I was surrounded by flames. Flames. They were everywhere. I squeezed my eyes tight against the angry orange sear, but it didn't help. I knew it was there. Even behind my eyes, I could see it. And the smell, the pungent odor of toxic chemicals melting out of plastics, rugs, electronics, the sick scent of burning hair. Human hair? My hair? No. I saw him now. The man staggering around the inferno that had once been a hotel room. Flames dancing over his arms, his legs, his hair. He pounded at the flames, but it only fueled them as they leaped down to his face, and the man turned to me. I saw my father's final agonized cry of, "No!" I gasped, bolting up tight. My heart raced, and tears of despair rolled down my cheeks. Where was I? I clutched for my necklace and found only thick folds of my robe. Frightened and shaken, I looked around, completely disoriented, my nose hunting for the smell of fire. What drugs did you take at the club? Unless this is supposed to be a flashback. Well, yeah, obviously, yeah, it's a flashback, sort of a hallucination. In my experience, though, flashbacks are usually triggered by something. We'll see if it's triggered by something. My eyes caught on the room service tray lying next to me on the bed. Chocolate croissant crumbs. Specific. Concrete. My ragged breathing smooth, and I glanced out the window to find the comforting glow of Notre Dame. I focused on the cathedral, taking in longer and deeper breaths. The therapist told me the dreams would go away as time had passed. It had been a year since my dad disappeared, and they were still pretty constant. My therapist now claims it's because of the uncertainty. If I knew what happened, if there were any answers. Okay, so far this book seems to be handling mental health issues well. I mean, I don't know if my standards are low because it's Hillary Duff. My standards should actually be higher because, she probably, she knows her thing. A lot of what's in this book has been her life for, many years. But there aren't. So my mind fills in the blanks with every horrible thing I've ever heard, read about, or seen. And since I've had the amazing opportunity to work as a photojournalist, I've seen all kinds of things. In other words, my brain has a lot of great nightmare fodder. I chastised myself over this last one, though. It was ridiculous. If I knew anything, I knew my father didn't die in a hotel fire. He hadn't been staying at a hotel. He had been at a global reach outpost, so why would I dream about that? This is either foreshadowing or it isn't. My eyes drifted to the television, and it all made sense. There was a fire on screen. I must have heard it in my sleep and incorporated it into my dream. I made a mental note to not watch the news when I fell asleep. The last thing I needed was help with my nightmares. So wait, did she fall asleep? I thought she was just having a flashback. Hang on. Sack of pillows and settled into watch. Yeah, there's nothing that said she fall asleep or anything that suggested she dozed off. I mean, I guess there was probably to I leaned back on a stack of pillows and settled into watch, and the next thing I knew, I was surrounded by flames. There's nothing to suggest that she fell asleep or dozed off. Way to create urgency by thinking, oh, no, there's a terrorist attack in France because that's so rare nowadays. And probably just a way to shock. If it was clear that it was a nightmare, or if there was a hint, it wouldn't have been that interesting or shocking. I mean, I don't know if I was shocked by it. It seems like a pretty heavy card to play right in the beginning, given what appears to be this book's ambitions. But I digress. Winced, watching the fire. It was huge, devouring a large, beautiful apartment building that had to have been around since the 1800s. It made me sad to think something could have the fortitude to last over 200 years, only to be destroyed in no time at all. I turned the volume up, wanting to know more about the building and the people who were inside. My French was only okay, but it sounded like the fire had broken out somewhere on the upper floors of a building that was much coveted for its views of the Eiffel Tower. My blood ran cold. Her memories have just been sold. I had heard something about the views of the Eiffel Tower tonight. No. I was jumping to conclusions. There was no way. I heard Ryan's voice in my head. Je vais aller chez Paris. He has a penthouse with a view of the Eiffel Tower. C'est très bon, no? Still, there were a lot of apartments in Paris with views of the Eiffel Tower. The chances that this building was the same one. I grabbed my phone to scroll where Raina had written Pierre's address and glared at the TV anchors. Come on, I urged him. Tell me where it is. What's the address? I've watched some breaking news of disasters. I don't think they usually give the address. They'll give a map, but not an address. Le fou est le contraire de... Fuck me. Le fou est avec contraire de Suez. The female anchor finally said. The world stopped. The addresses were the same. Wow, she's dead. And it's the first chapter, too. That's impressive. No, I cried out. Please, no, 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 no. I pounded out Raina's number and waited forever for the phone to ring. Pick up, Raina. Please, pick up. Nothing. No answer. Shit. Oh, Hillary Duff knows a swear word. Eee. I hung up, yanked back on my clothes, and raced out of my room, doubling back only for a second to grab my camera. It was sheer instinct. Whatever panic I was feeling about Raina, the fire was a news story, and I take pictures of news stories. That line is really awkward. Kind of self-important. J'ai besoin au taxi maintenant. I snapped to the doorman as I ran outside, then followed it up with the peremptory, s'il vous plaît. But the doorman had heard the desperation of my voice and had already darted into the street to flag one down. This was taking too long. Could I run the 2 miles faster? No. Better to wait. But standing there was making me insane. I had to do something. I checked my watch. 9 a.m. 9 in the morning? What the hell? If it's 9 a.m. where you were presumably out late at night. You did you fall asleep at like 1 or something, and then the fire news started at like 5, and then you had the nightmare then, or how? This is kind of weird timing, I think. Okay, I'm in New London, Connecticut. It didn't matter. I called his number. He answered on the third ring, sounding completely awake and alert, though I knew he had been asleep for hours. Claire, are you okay? Thank God for caller ID. Ben knew I wouldn't call in the middle of the night unless it was absolutely vital. Ben, it's about Raina. There's a fire. A huge fire. My voice broke. I started to sob. I couldn't keep it together. Not if something happened to Raina. I couldn't. Take a deep breath and tell me. Tell me everything. Ben's voice was calm and steady now. I loved that about him. The more difficult an emotional situation, the more he'd step back and handle it logically and methodically. His voice had been my security blanket a lot this past year. Aw, Ben sounds nice. I don't know, I said. The doorman had finally found a cab and I raced inside, shouting Pierre's address to the driver. Venez, s'il vous plaît, vite. I curled into the back seat of the car, hugging myself as I told Ben what I'd seen. Okay, Ben's voice soothed me from nearly 4,000 miles away. Don't panic. You don't know anything yet. You're going there now, right? As fast as I can, I said, reaching into my purse and pulling out a handful of euros, which I'd held out to the driver. Plus vite, s'il vous plaît, I urged. Great, Ben said. Just talk to me when you get there. I have no idea what I would do without Ben. My circle of trusted friends came down to exactly two. Ben and Raina. Not even close, not even enough to make a circle, a line segment of trusted friends. You can make a three-person circle. Don't be a baby. I spoke to Ben every second of the 10-minute ride. I had to. The sound of my own voice reaching out to him was the only thing that kept my entire body from flying apart and scattering into molecules of panic. Molecules of Panic, the new name of my electronic band. That's it. I shouted to the cab driver. Not that it was necessary. Road blockades prevented us from going any farther. I'm here, I told Ben. I'm getting out. I'll call you back the minute I know anything. I'll wait, Ben said. I knew he would. I shoved another handful of euros at the taxi driver, and then ran out and immediately shut my eyes across the acrid air. I yanked my turtleneck collar over my nose and mouth to filter out the smoke and ash as I ran the last block to the blazing building, pushing it through the gawkers at every step. Trucks weren't seen, but the water from their hoses seemed like an insignificant trickle, a child's water pistol in the face of an inferno. I'm actually really bad at telling purple prose apart. This doesn't seem like purple prose, but it does seem a little more pretentious than it has to be. I mean, you don't really need a metaphor for that. You can just say that the water was smaller than the fire. Raina! I screamed at the fall of rain. Wall of rain. I'm dyslexic. Raina! I screamed up to the wall of flames. Raina! Clay! I spun around wildly, needing to see her face like I needed air, needing to make sure she was okay, that she wasn't calling me from a stretcher, gasping out her last, Claire, it's okay. I'm okay. I'm right here. There she was, bundled into sweats and a long wool coat 5 sizes too large for her, her curls hidden by a massive gray hat with ear flaps, a look that could have only been pulled off effectively by only someone in 1930 Siberia, or a supremely angular male model. Oh my God, Raina, I cried, pulling her into my arms and squeezing her too hard. I couldn't help it. I needed proof she was really there. I'm fine. Pierre and I went out for coffee. We weren't even back here when the fire started. She pulled back just enough to press her forehead into mine and look into my eyes. I told you, you'll never lose me, remember? I predict this isn't the last time we'll hear that phrase. Don't, I warned. But the panic had already drained enough that I could smile. I hugged her again. And even when we were pulled away, we kept our arms wrapped around each other. Have you ever seen anything like it? She asked solemnly. I followed her gaze to the apartment building, its entire midsection now engulfed in leaping flames. I had seen like it, but that didn't lessen the impact. Fire is magnetic, an almost illicit combination of the destructive forces and awe-inspiring beauty. With an effort, I turned away from the dancing slashes of flame to the scene on the street. I saw the grim determination of the firefighters, their faces betraying no emotion. I saw the onlookers split between the curious and the personally affected, the former gaping upward in a state of exalted wonder, the latter huddled together in frightened groups, or chain-smoking and pacing like Pierre. I saw the dissonance of rainbows and the sun glinted off the water from the fire hoses. Rainbow from fire hoses, I'll give it to you, that's interesting. Beer smoking, though, that's another stereotype. Itchy trigger finger? Raina asked, smiling. I followed her gaze to my right hand, which had already removed my camera from its bag. You should, she said. I'm going to check on Pierre, and if you give me your phone, I'll call Ben back and let him know everything's okay. Assuming you called him, she added with a grin. Raina knew me far too well. I gave her one last squeeze, then handed her the phone and disappeared behind my camera, blending seamlessly into the scene. I was where I belonged. It felt right. I had absolutely no idea I was taking pictures that would change my life forever. Okay, everything's okay. That was a bit of a lead up for, I guess. You didn't have to make this chapter 1. You could have made this the prologue if it's going to take this long for the plot to actually start. But yeah, that's the end of it. That was 29 pages of text, and that is chapter 1 of Elixr by Hillary Duff, as discarded from the Hamilton Public Library. I just noticed this actually when I was reading it. It says UK, so I wonder if this isn't the city, like the British Hamilton. But it's hard to tell. Anyway, so yeah, this is probably quite a long video, but reading and analysis does take its time. So you're not seeing the whole video. I'm editing it down. I'm going to try and get all the highlights into it so that'll be simple and effective. Part 2, I want to come out real soon, so please keep your eyes out for that. My top 10 best King of the Hill episodes video should be coming soon. I'm almost done watching the episodes, and then I'll have to write the script, which shouldn't take very long, and editing should be the longest part. But yeah, I've got my computer all settled up now, so I can, do a lot more effective stuff in it. So hopefully content should be coming out better and more effectively. So in the meantime, please give me feedback. Tell me what you thought of the book, or if you even care, if you want to hear more of the book, or, just let me know. Hopefully I plan to do this later with some friends of mine. We'll get on Google Hangout so we can talk about it and have a good time. And I won't just be the only person screaming into the microphone. On that note, I'll catch you all later. Remember to read bad books.